Hi friends! Welcome to today's video where we're talking about Chef RPG, which has officially launched into early access, and after playing about 7 hours, I've put together 30 essential beginner tips to help you get started in this beautiful pixel art cooking sim. There's so much to explore, so let's dive right in. So tip number 1, starting out at the beginning, you can choose which season to start with, which is really nice. One thing that you're going to want to pay attention to, which we'll also talk about later in the video, is that there are certain ingredients and things that you can find in the different seasons. So for example, in spring, you find more vegetation versus in autumn, you'll find more fruits and mushrooms. So you want to make sure that you're choosing the season that you would prefer to start out in, especially depending on what type of restaurant you might want to run. For example, if you want to start a fish restaurant or something that revolves around sushi or something like that, you may consider starting out in summer where fish are plentiful. Now, as I just mentioned about the seasons and picking one that resonates with the restaurant you want to build, it goes directly into picking a specialty. So you can see here we have different types of specialties that you can start out with, being meat, vegetable, seafood, you have soup, dessert, and also beverage recipes. So you want to pick whichever one you would like to start out with because it gives you 3 recipes which can jumpstart your restaurant. Now, the next thing I think is important for everyone to focus on is skill points. This is going to go directly along with your skill tree and abilities that we'll see later on in the video. But if you hover over these numbers, it will give you kind of a breakdown of what exactly each one of these skills are important for. I would recommend putting a couple of points into endurance starting out just because you're going to need a lot of stamina and health when you're out foraging for ingredients. So I definitely recommend starting here with endurance, and then maybe you can add a couple in these other ones, but endurance I think is the best for starting out. Now, also as it relates to your skills, when you're actually in the game, you can come to your character menu, hit this little arrow right here to the left-hand side, and it will give you a breakdown of your current stats and where everything sits at and how it gives you a bonus in certain areas. So just pay attention to this as you're leveling your character up. Now, since we're already in the character menu and talking about skills, let's head over to our skill tree, which is right here, and you'll see as you level up, you get skill points and ability points. Now, your ability points and skill points combine into this area over here so that you can unlock special attributes or abilities that will help you further along in your game. When you start out in the game, you do already have 3 skill points, I believe, that you can spend, and I highly recommend placing at least one of those points into Explorer. This one is super important for you being able to fast travel back home as you are running around on the map and in the world. It may be obvious, but as you get skill points and ability points, your skill points are used to increase your endurance, gathering, cooking, and social skills. So you can, of course, apply these however you like, but I do suggest being strategic with this because each one of these will obviously help you in different parts of your game. Now, my next tip is a really important one, and it's going to help you out so much as you are out looking for ingredients, is to unlock Forest Citizen as soon as possible. I do think you need to level up to at least level 2 or 3 in gathering in order to get this skill unlocked, but this allows you to see which ingredients are forageable, and I'll show you exactly how right now. So the reason that the Forest Citizen perk is so important because although some ingredients are easy to see, like these strawberries right here, there are other ingredients that are harder to find, and you may just end up passing them by accident, not realizing that they are actually something that you can forage. For example, this plant right here looks just like a regular plant, but with the Forest Citizen perk, a little magnifying glass will pop up now, letting you know that this is something you can actually gather or like chop down. For example, this little leaf right here is an ingredient, and I didn't realize this until I unlocked the Forest Citizen perk. Also, if you have the magnifying glass out, you can click on the ingredient and it'll tell you exactly what it is and when it's most likely to be available. So these are tea leaves. This is an important ingredient that I've been needing for a long time. And you can see that it's most often available in spring, and then I think it's less likely to be available in summer and autumn. I'm not exactly sure what the purple ring is, so if anybody knows what purple means, please comment it in the comments below. That would be super helpful. So make sure you get that Forest Citizen perk as soon as possible. So now let's talk about your map. When you're in the map menu, you can see the entire world that you have available to you here. If you have already unlocked fast travel, then you can click on this little icon here, which will return you home. There is a time consumption that happens, so I think time passes as you fast travel, but you can see that's going to be really helpful for getting around when you're further away from home than you want to be. Right now, my map looks pretty empty. However, if you look up here in the upper left-hand corner of your map, you'll see 2 icons. And these icons will be helpful for when one, you have quests, which is this icon here. If you click it, it'll show you, I don't have any active quests right now, but it will show you where your quest that you need to turn in or anything like that on your map. So it'll show you where that person is that you need to talk to specifically on the map. Now, again, I don't have any close friends, but this little heart is also for close friends. So if you're looking for someone maybe that you're romancing, or if you want to gift somebody something, you will click this little heart icon and it should show you exactly where they are on your map. Now, I know this might be personal preference, but I'm a fan of the map having all of the information just readily available to me. I know that it really just depends on who you are, but I did realize after kind of exploring a bit that if you do want to know what a building is, or if you're looking for a specific building, if you have discovered it, it will have a name. So for example, Greenstock is where you can buy vegetables. If I hover over this building right here, you will see the name pop up. But if you haven't discovered a building, you can tell it is something that you can discover by the little question marks that are overhead. So you can spend some time running around the map and discovering all of these new buildings. And you can also use this to help you find some place that you need to go to if you're not familiar with the area just yet. Now, if you go back into your character menu, you can see this icon right here is for quests. You have 4 different types of quests that you can currently complete in the game, which are story quests, character quests, miscellaneous quests, and daily quests. So they are separated out, which I think is really nice. And I'm sure more will be added as the game moves through its early access period. Now, if you do have an active quest, it looks like this when you come to find the person that you're looking for. They'll have this little exclamation mark over their head. And that's how you know you have something to either complete or, do for whatever this person needs. This is also what it will look like if you do have a quest that you need to turn in. You are this yellow marker here, while the quest that you need to complete is this person's head outlined in purple. So that's how you'll know on the map if you have any quests that are due. Now, while we're here, these little Welsh stands that we're standing at, you can talk to these people for information. If you need to know something or have questions, you can learn a little bit more about town, about locals, about ingredients, and even other things that you may need to know just by talking to them. Now, in that same vein, when you're here next to an apartment or a house, you can come up to the mailbox and it will tell you who lives here as well. So that's a good way to get familiar with, who lives where and just getting a better understanding of the world and your map. Now, as you're running around, you will also see these little green arrows and also pink and red arrows above the heads of the NPCs. I spent an insane amount of time trying to figure out what these arrows mean and how they differentiate the different characters from each other. But after talking with some friends, I want to give a major shout out to Ellie, also known as the Cozy Gaming Club here on YouTube, and also Josh, also known as Josh's Gaming Guardian here on YouTube. They both helped me figure out what these arrows means, and essentially what it boiled down to, what we believe it boils down to, is that there are minor and major characters in the game. The minor characters are the ones with the pink arrows above their heads, and the green arrows indicate main story like NPCs. So you want to make sure that you talk to these minor characters who have those red arrows, because sometimes they can give you helpful information and hints about ingredients, while the green arrows indicate people that you can likely romance and who have a major part in the storyline of the game. Now, as you can see, it is getting dark. This is a great next tip that I want to go ahead and let you know. I spent some time figuring out how long it would take before you pass out each night. It's not at 12, it's not at 1, but at 2 a.m. you pass out. So you want to make sure while you're out running around the world that you get back home by at least 2 a.m. so that you can make it to bed. Now, if you pass out like I did just now, you will find yourself waking up in the hospital. And our good friend here will let you know that you shouldn't be passing out. Valentina will also have different dialogue depending on how you pass out. Like if you were attacked by an animal or something like that and that ended up making you pass out, she'll have like different dialogue for that. But this is the hospital, and after speaking with them, they will tell you how much credits, which is money in the game, will be deducted from your account. And if you do pass out and you don't have enough money in your account, nothing serious will happen, except you will be in the negatives with your finances. So that's just something to keep in mind as well. Now, I don't think any other negative effects happen after passing out, except for the fact that you may be starting your day just a little bit later than you normally do. I think we wake up around 6 or 7 a.m. if we go to bed at night. But when you pass out and end up in the hospital, you wake up, it looks like around 10. I don't know if that varies, but just something to note as well. Now, in that same vein with passing out, I would recommend trying your best not to pass out when you're running around, especially in the early days of the game, because there are some storyline progression and also some cutscenes that happen when you do go to sleep at night. So you may want to be mindful about, just trying not to pass out. It's not necessary. You will see the cutscenes eventually when you do go to sleep. But if you spend a lot of time passing out, it may slow down your progression just a bit. I don't see that happening for most people, but just something to be aware of. So now let's talk about some tips I would do daily as I'm running around the town. One thing I would make sure that I do every single day is come and talk to the shop owners. Most of the time, the shops do have food and things to sell, but the most important reason why I want you to check every day here at the shop is because sometimes they're selling recipes. For example, I just switched my account back to this other one, and I can see by talking to Chop here that we have a random recipe available to purchase for 282 credits. So I went ahead and purchased that because these recipes will be very important for improving my restaurant, and recipes are a primary part of the game. So do make sure you're looking for recipes each day by talking to the shop owners as you're walking around town. Now, another great place to check for not recipes but items is to talk to Aloys here down by the fishing dock. If you come here to shop, you can find new hats. I don't know if they're here daily or not, but I do know over time, Alloy does get in new hats, which is an example of the hat that I have on now. You can also get this baseball cap here, and they may change depending on season, but I would talk to them regularly just to see if they get some new clothing to purchase in their shop here. As a side note, you can also buy a new fishing rod, and the fishing rod is going to be really important because it will help you obviously catch better fish or make it easier to catch fish. So do make sure you check Alloy's shop to see if there's a new fishing rod in as well. Another place that you want to check daily is this billboard right here. If you interact with the billboard, you can see the NPCs have certain tasks for you to complete. This is important for a number of reasons. One, if you complete one of these a day, you can make pretty good credits. So you can see I can make an apple pie as a takeout dish and get 288 credits, which is really good money. But also it's important too because you can find some random or important resources. So this reward right here says various items. We don't know what those items are, but could be something good. You also can get a random material item. So this could be good for you to get resources that you need or don't have yet. So I would definitely recommend checking every day and trying to complete one at least once a day, if not once every other day, depending on what the task is requiring of you. Now, another place that you can check for billboards is down here. The first billboard that I found was up here right next to the buildings, but there's also one down here. So there's two places that you can find these billboards to complete the NPCs tasks. Also, when you accept one of those NPC tasks from the billboard, it'll show up here in your daily quest area. For my next tip, I would definitely recommend checking out the vending machines. Now, depending on who you pick in the beginning stages of the game, I think I forgot to mention this, but just as a side note, you can choose to be either a cyborg or also just a human, but depending on the race that you choose, you actually get different effects. For example, cyborgs' stamina decreases a lot less quickly versus a human, but let's just say you are a human and you need energy. You can come and check these vending machines. They have a lot of different drinks and food that help give you buffs. Some of the buffs that these drinks can give you, the drinks and the food can give you, are positive. Some of them are negative. For example, this blueberry mouthbreaker increases my gathering boost for 60 seconds, but it also decreases my health. The colors are a little confusing because it's a negative impact on your health, but it shows up green here. I'm not really sure how I feel about that, but just be mindful of the different effects they can have on your character. But most importantly, for beginners starting out in the game, stamina depletes so fast for humans, and when you're out gathering all day, you will run out of stamina really quickly. So I highly recommend to buy coffees. So the coffees are only 26 credits, which I feel like is really affordable. And this regular black coffee will increase your stamina by 20. So I make sure to keep these on my person all the time when I'm running around because it's a good way, again, to have energy all the time if you run out. But I do recommend checking the different vending machines because they all have different things, and some of the buffs could be really useful to your game depending if you're a beginner or if you're mid to late game. Now let's talk about one of the most important aspects of the game, which is foraging for different resources and ingredients to use in your restaurant. Now, at the beginning of the video, you saw that these weren't fully regrown, but they have grown in now, which is a point that I want to make. If you start memorizing where some ingredients are, depending on the season that you're in, they do regrow after a couple of days once you pick them up. I think different ingredients obviously have different respawn rates, but it is a good idea to make sure that you have memorized where the ingredients are, because then you'll be able to find them pretty easily each day. Now, let's say you're out hunting. Something I want you to be mindful of is that you will get attacked by most of the animals. I think all of the animals can attack you if you start hunting them. So I'll just shoot at this elk right here. Let's just see. Okay, so after I shoot the elk, they will come chase you. You want to make sure that you try to dodge them as much as possible, because especially early game, they can hurt you pretty badly, especially the boar. So just try to keep out of range of them hitting you while you are trying to hunt these different animals that you can use for food in the game. Now, once you get them down to a certain amount of health, they will start to run away. Most of the animals are a lot faster than you, and they are harder to hit, especially when they're running away. So one thing that I like to do is to just pause and stop chasing them for the time being so that they can stop running. It's much easier to hunt the animals when they have stopped running from you. So they should still be around in the area, even if they go out of view, and you should still be able to hunt them. But I just let them stop running before I try to shoot them again, because I miss more arrows than not when they're running away. That's just me, and if anybody else struggles with that, that's the strategy I use to hunt the animals. Now, let's say that you're hunting a boar or another animal and they've started attacking you. As you can see, they do a decent amount of damage, and it can really affect your health. So if you find yourself in a situation where you have an animal chasing you and you're about to die, the easiest thing you can do is just run off. Well, you can just run away, but if you're close to the edge of a map, you can run out of the side of the map and it will de-aggro the animal. So you can just exit and then re-enter the area of the map, and they will no longer be chasing you. It's a good way to save yourself if you're about to die. Like if you're one hit away from dying, that's one way I've saved myself, is just to run away and run off the map. Also, when you're out here foraging all the different ingredients that you can find, if you go into the menu and you hover over the ingredients, one thing I want everyone to pay attention to is the different color coding and also the words that are associated with the ingredients. So you can see that different ingredients, depending on their rarity, have different colors. So most common you'll see is blue. You have rare that's green. So just make sure you are paying attention to the different colors of the ingredients. Those do factor into the different recipes and how much money you will make selling these recipes in your restaurant. The other part I want you to pay attention to is the text that's right underneath the name of the ingredient. You'll see it says common ingredient and then vegetable consumable. One thing that I found is some of the ingredients are consumables while others can be used as gifts. So if I hover over this shell, you can see it says it's a common gift. So I know that I don't need to use this ingredient in a recipe or anything, or I don't need to save them. I can use them to gift other NPCs, or I can just sell them for credits. Now, this is a major tip. Every day, or at least every other day, you need to come down to the beach and collect all of the shells that are down here. Specifically, you need to look for these purple clam shells. You're also going to want to try to find these little cone shells as well. And here's why. So the shells are important because there are two major ways to make money in the game that I have found so far. The first one is obviously, and of course, running your restaurant. You're going to make the most amount of money that you can make in the game running your restaurant each day and selling the meals that you are cooking. However, the shells sell for a decent amount of money. And so if you come into a shop, this is a way that you can sell at any shop. But you click this little bag icon and you can see there are a lot of grayed out items. So this is kind of like another tip, but you can only sell certain items to the vendors that correspond. So vegetables at the vegetable stand, fruit at the fruit stand, and seafood at the Fish King stand. So here we are, and you can see that this cone shell, which is also an epic gift. So side note, make sure you save some of these to gift to the NPCs to improve relationships. But you can sell these cone shells for 336 credits, which is really good money. You can also sell the purple clam shells for 84 credits. So make sure you're checking the beach regularly to find these shells, because it's a good way to make yourself some extra money, especially if you've run out of money and you need some quickly to purchase, something for the restaurant or new furniture or whatever the case may be. Now, running around, this is a game all about foraging, as we've been talking about, but your inventory is likely to fill up. Now, as you cook in your restaurant, you will have a a refrigerator that you can store ingredients in, which we'll be talking about in a second. But if you need additional space, you do have storage inside of your bedroom. Later on in the game, you can own a house, but right now you have this little apartment that's been gifted to you. So you can use this storage box here with some additional storage slots to just put in other ingredients or maybe other things that you find around the world here so it doesn't clog up your inventory. So here we are inside of your restaurant, also known as La Sequoia, and lots of magic happens inside the restaurant. Have a lot of tips to go over, so let's talk about all the different things as it relates to your restaurant and cooking and so forth. So to start, if you come to the little table right here, there are going to be some game tips while you're playing that will show you how to use all of this stuff, but I am going to talk about a couple of things I think you should know that they don't explain in detail. For one, when you're hiring staff, you can come in here and view everyone that you have assigned, chefs, and also waiters. If you have unassigned staff that you've hired, they'll show up here. You can come back to this button and click view your staff, and you'll see anybody who is currently hired here. Now, if you do want to just unhire someone or unassign them to your restaurant, you just click them and you can see I no longer have any waiters or waitresses available, and vice versa, you can just click them to assign. Down here on these arrows, you can change their outfits, which I think is very, very cool. So you can change kind of how they look, what color they're wearing, and so forth. Now, just as a side tip, when you're hiring staff, you are going to want to make sure you pay attention to how they affect other workers and their buffs. For example, this chef here, Hector, doesn't have anything other than their signing fee and their hourly wage, making them just a basic kind of hire. But if you come over here to these two, Candy and Tam, you can see Tam is an overworker, never needs to rest, but staff has a 5% chance of confusion, which is a positive and a negative at the same time. I actually might hire Tam, so I'm going to go ahead and click that. We also have Candy, who has certain buffs as well, which is calm, but it also has a negative impact on movement speed. This is not someone I would recommend hiring, but obviously use your best judgment and do whatever works best for you. Now, if you don't like the options that you see available, if you have the money, you can click this little icon here to recycle your options. It's kind of expensive starting out early, but if you have the money, I would definitely recommend re-rolling to hopefully find better staff, because staff is very important to the amount of money you make in your restaurant each night. Now, if you come to this tab here called operational mode, you can change the type of restaurant that you're running, which I love. So you have 5 different options. One is restaurant, the second one is social house, the third one is tea house, the fourth one is pub, and the fifth one is confectionery. Now, these little boxes here show what type of restaurant it is. So if you choose the traditional restaurant, it's going to be appetizers and your main courses. But if you decide to change to something like confectionery, for example, people are going to primarily order desserts and beverages. So it changes your menu essentially. Now, it does seem like you can change this at any time, which is nice, but just be mindful when you do change it, you have to fill up these empty slots here. So the ones that are a little bit lighter, these have to be filled with recipes in order to be able to run your restaurant. So let's just say I decided that I want to change my restaurant to a pub. I need to have 4 beverage recipes, and I have to have all of the ingredients necessary for the beverages or the drinks in order to apply them to my menu. If you can't fill up all of these slots, it will not allow you to set the menu or run the restaurant as a pub. You can see down here it says menu not ready. So the next thing we're going to talk about is restaurant layout. This is very important because there are a lot of things that affect the success of your restaurant and also affect how much money you make. So not only does the food need to be good, but the experience needs to be good and wait times need to be low in order to make the max amount of money. So I would definitely say starting out, set your work tables and your cooking stations very close to your refrigerator so that you can grab the food and bring it over to your work tables here and you can start cooking the food pretty quickly. Also, you may want to consider keeping your tables close to wherever this little prep table is, because this is where your servers will come to grab food and serve your customers. So just keep in mind, starting out, even if you're like me and want to make something really aesthetic and beautiful, do try to keep things close together at the beginning, at least, just so that you're making the most amount of money. So I've switched back to my other save so that I can show you guys cooking and the tips that I have for you when you're cooking in your restaurant. There are definitely some important things to know here. So once you've set your menu for the night, you can click to open the restaurant. When you hover over, you saw it really quickly, but it'll show you whether you can open or not, depending on the requirements that you need for your restaurant. And this is when customers will filling in. So if you hover over autocook, you can see activate to skip mini games. The mini games are fun, but they do take a long time and can be very repetitive. So you can see that I must receive at least a 95% dish quality for the mini game. You can see this is what autocook looks like when it's turned on, once you've unlocked it for the specific recipe. So you can see here it's cooking on its own and I don't have to do the mini game, which is such a relief starting out. I'm going to try to get a better score on this. Okay, so I just scored 98 on the coffee by playing the mini game, and perfect. You guys can see here that I unlocked autocook for common recipes that use the barista machine. So if I have to make a coffee now, it will be on autocook, which makes things a lot easier. Okay, so you can see now I'm making another coffee and I don't have to go through the mini game anymore. So essentially make sure that you try to score as high as possible on the mini game so that you can unlock the autocook feature, which is going to help you to make recipes faster. Now, the only thing that you do want to be mindful of is that when you do have autocook on, dish quality will be assigned at a random value. So you can't control exactly how good the quality of the dish is. It does depend on the base of your cooking level. So you might want to focus on increasing your cooking level too once you have autocook turned on. And of course, the quality of your dishes does affect how much money you make and the satisfaction of your customers. So everything kind of runs together. Now, the last tip I have for you does pertain to a little bug that I've noticed. This has helped me when I've been playing, but if you ever get stuck, once I've gotten stuck inside the restaurant, the best thing you can do is hit escape, come over here to this little icon, and you can exit to the main menu. It automatically saves when you exit to the main menu. And I've noticed that once I come back in from exiting, it has kind of fixed that bug, and I can then move around and you do start back right where you were at in the game. So it is a good way to get yourself out of a bind if you do find yourself stuck. Please be mindful that this game is in early access, which means that there will be bugs or little things that you may run into. So that's all the tips I have for you today, guys. I hope that this has been a helpful beginner's starting guide and tips and tricks video to get you started in Chef RPG. I am really enjoying this game so much. I hope that you guys have enjoyed the video and learned something new. Also, if you have any additional tips that you'd like to share, please comment them below. I would love to know anything that I might have missed or anything that I can look forward to in the game, as long as it's not a super spoiler. But thank you so much for watching. I hope that you found it helpful and have enjoyed. And until next time, I will catch you all in the next one. Peace.